can cost you. How bad choices can cost you. And normally I would probably talk in point form, but you know what? Today I'm gonna share a story, a very powerful story that's really going to exemplify how when we make poor choices, how they can be very costly. An elderly carpenter was getting ready to retire. His name was Carpenter Joe. So he walks up into his boss's office and he says, "Boss, you know, I'm 65 years old. I'm getting tired and I'm ready to retire and I want to spend time with my extended family." His boss takes a deep breath and has to absorb this, because the thing is, Carpenter Joe's a really good carpenter. One of the best, if not the best. So his boss asks him for a favor. He says, "Joe, if you don't mind, can you build me one more house? Because I would just really appreciate that." So Carpenter Joe thought about what his boss said. Has anyone ever asked you to do something but you didn't want to do it, but you did it anyways, but you really didn't want to do it? That was Carpenter Joe's situation. So Carpenter Joe built this house. It took him about a month to finish. And after, while he was building his house, he didn't do his best work. He didn't put all his energy into it. His craftsmanship was very poor. It was a very lackluster effort. So after a month of finishing the house, which it took him about to build, he walks back into his boss's office and he says, "Hey boss, I finished that house that you had asked me." His boss was excited because he got that one final house from Joe, and after you build a home, you got to go inspect it. So his boss inspects it to make sure everything's done properly, checks the framing and the jib rock and the roofing and so on and so forth. And he goes to Joe and he goes, "Joe, one, I want to thank you for being here all these years. I want to thank you for your commitment and your loyalty to our workforce, and it's been a pleasure working with you. And I have something for you." And his boss goes in his back pocket and he pulls out a key and he says, "This is my gift from me to you, this house." And he gives it to Joe. And Joe puts out his hand, and as this key hits his hand, he's shocked to only know that if he built this house for himself, he would have done it so differently. But guess what? Carpenter Joe can't go back. How many times have we done things and not built our house wisely? You see, the lesson of the story is real simple, right? Every time you lay the wood down, every time you put a light bulb up in the air, every time you lay the floor down, you have to ask yourself, am I building my house wisely? Because how does this relate to real life? Well, every time you eat that burger, right, that pizza, drink that liquor, right, and then say, "Oh, I wish I could have, Susie's body or John's body," or open up that magazine or see someone on TV and say, "Oh, I wish." Choices. Right? Every time you want that promotion and you go to work and you show up late, right? Or you don't give it your best, or that project is not an A+ and you could have done better, and then you don't get that promotion, right? Every time in your relationship at home,